a matter of principle where we will define marriage as if it can be understood entirely apart from the possibility of that procreation. And by so doing, they make a mockery of the institution. And by so doing, they undermine our respect for the real meaning of those responsibilities and obligations and, yes, privileges that ought to be associated with those who are willing to accept God's gift of life and nurture future generations so that they may give glory to God and strength to our society.
That's right.
They have attacked our fundamental institutions, and they have attacked our moral character directly. With this lie that we have the right to take the life of our innocent children. Now, interestingly enough, this occurred, of course, in a Supreme Court decision. The last time I looked, the Supreme Court has to derive the basis for its decisions either from laws that have been passed by the Congress, federal laws, or from the Constitution. So we must look at the law and we must look at the Constitution to find out where they grounded themselves in this matter. There was, of course, no law that allowed abortion. They claimed that they found it somewhere in the Constitution, or rather, that isn't what Blackmun claimed, no. Blackmun actually claimed that he found nothing in the Constitution that protected the life of that child in the womb, that established that that child must be treated as a person. He even went so far as to declare that if, in fact, you could, from the Constitution, show that the life of that child in the womb must be respected as the life of a person, then the claim of Roe would fail. That's what he said. And there would be no abortion in this land. But he looked, or maybe his clerks looked, I don't know who looked. But they looked through the Constitution the way a sophomore would when he was preparing a little paper for school. And he found every reference to the word person. And it turned out that there was no context in the Constitution in which the word person referred to a child in the womb. Now that's interesting. It's a frame of government. Government usually involves adult people. And therefore they didn't find any reference to a child in the womb in there. Isn't that interesting? Of course, they didn't find a reference to 8-year-old children either. And 7-year-olds and 5-year-olds. So does that mean we have the right to slay them also? I sincerely doubt, but even so, this was his way of reasoning. And as a result of not finding any reference to person, he emancipated himself from the Constitution, started a review of all kinds of laws and practices and philosophies and religious opinions because he acknowledged that this decision about abortion had always been made in every society throughout the history of humankind in connection with the faith and moral conscience of the people. Isn't that fascinating? But he decided that he would take the place of the faith and conscience of the American people and substitute for their deliberations his own arbitrary conclusion that the law, as he put it, did not recognize the personhood of the child in the womb. Now, I would remind you, just for the sake of that we not forget it, that, quote, the law doesn't mean anything in America. In America, we have laws passed by our representatives, and we have constitutions approved by our people. Any law not reflected in those laws passed by our representatives, not grounded in those constitutions approved by our people, is not law for us. For we are not peasants, we are not slaves, we are not serfs. We are a free people with the right to govern ourselves. We have been asked to forget this truth. And in forgetting it, they have severed us from our God and now severed us from our children. But did they have this right under the Constitution? No. Well, let's see. If Justice Blackmun had bothered to read the Constitution, and sad to say, I am more and more concluding that one of the great problems with our federal judges in particular is that apparently they don't read the Constitution anymore. They use it as an excuse, but they don't bother to treat it with the respect that ought to be shown to the expressed will of the sovereign people of the United States. Right there in the beginning of the Constitution, it says, "We the people," that's us, by the way. It does not say, "We the justices of the Supreme Court." It does not say, "We the lawyers and the members of this little oligarchy that will now dictate what the law shall be in America." No. The Constitution does not belong to the judges. It does not belong to the lawyers. It belongs to the people of the United States. It is our wisdom, it is our common sense that is the ultimate arbiter of that Constitution. It is for us to decide what it means, not for them. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and, see, this is the one we really need to ponder here, secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Now that is a word of many syllables, which I am sure in our schools these days they would discourage you from using. One of the reasons they're trying to dumb our children down is that they will no longer understand the Constitution when they read it. But just in case anybody missed it, the word posterity actually is simply a Latin root word that refers to those who will come after us, to those who are the future generations, to those who issue from our loins and from our wombs, to those who come after us as our children and the future generations. That is our posterity. It includes those whom we cannot see, whom we cannot imagine, who will walk the earth 100 or 1,000 years from now, who are not even the shadow of a dream in our imaginations. But if it includes them, then surely it includes those who are already sleeping in the antechambers of this walking world, our children in the womb.